Hello everybody and welcome back to Firepower Gaming. I just want to give you a little bit of an update in regards to some of the work I've been doing over the course of the last week or so. You may well remember that I was working on my Dux Britanniarum and 100 Years War project almost exclusively, which lasted about the grand total of about a week, I think. And as you can see, I've had the 3D printer out. I've been musing a lot on O Group following its release by Ricefitz Press and Two Fat Lardies, particularly about higher level gaming in World War II. One of the things I'm really interested in are combined operations, how to accurately represent things like, for example, artillery fire, tactical air on the tabletop. And obviously that requires finding a scale at which you can reflect these things slightly more accurately, which has led me to mess around with my 3D printer. So I've bought a copy of Blitzkrieg Commander to have a look at, see whether some of the concepts within that rule set lend itself to gaming at this scale. People have also suggested Rommel as well, from Sam Mustafa, which is something that I'll also be looking at. But the idea behind this was really to try and push the 3D printer to see just how far it was possible to create small scale miniatures. And the idea being that, one of these bases, which is a 40 by 40 base, could contain either possibly a platoon or a company of infantry. And when you start to play at this kind of scale, it really starts to raise some interesting questions around what the game might look like, questions of command and control, the importance of things like maneuver, how fundamental things like infantry combat might be reflected. Obviously, when you're playing in what is effectively 2mm scale, the effect of rifle fire, small arms fire, LMGs, these types of weapons can be very, very difficult to try and capture that on the tabletop. If you're talking about a useful range of maybe out to 200 yards, you're talking the grand scale of about 220 centimetres. So, and also as well, questions around abstraction of weapon systems. One of the things that I kind of wanted to try to avoid was, how do you avoid micromanaging things like anti-tank teams, PATs, heavy machine guns. It strikes me, if you're kind of playing at the platoon and company level, a lot of those weapon systems are going to be almost invisible within the structure of the infantry stands that you might be using. So I'll just show you what I've been working on. You'll notice that a number of the bases have gone a little bit banana shaped. That's because of my poor settings on the printer, and I'm hoping to rectify that. But for the purposes of messing about, I think they're perfectly adequate. So this, as I mentioned, could quite easily be either an infantry platoon or indeed a company. I've also produced, contradicting my earlier statements, I've also produced some heavy machine gun stands, which I think in many respects could just be possibly used as tokens which attach to a given company or platoon to give it some form of bonus in the defensive. Or alternatively, I might do away with them altogether. I am kind of musing on a set of rules which try to capture these various elements, and I'm actually quite enjoying going through the process of writing some of this stuff down, and hopefully we'll get to a position where I can actually give it a game. Obviously, it also creates the opportunity to do things like put infantry bases on the table. So here's a couple of stands of 105mm German artillery. just in front of those I've got a couple of mortar batteries as well. So trying to understand how artillery will integrate and be used in concert with your other supporting elements. So over here, we've got some Panthers, some Tigers at the back, some recon elements to support my infantry. I have also made a start on the Russians as well. So these are T-34-85s, as you can see. Again, some of the bases are damaged, but once they're repaired with a bit of super glue and the basings on, they won't be particularly noticeable. Some ideas around some command tokens, so some carbon wagons and a 251 there. And then over here, just some of the stands that I painted up as a bit of an experiment, really, to see what the final thing might look like. So we've got a number of Panzer Grenadier stands there. So that might possibly represent either a company or even a battalion, depending on what level I play. And then a couple of stands of Stugs, which everybody obviously likes, and some Panzer IVs, with barrels of which I've modified slightly in Tinkercad, just to make them a little bit more chunky and a bit more resilient. So the idea being is that this project will kind of tinker along in the background. I will be going back to my Duxbury and my 100 Years War stuff. There's some units lingering at the back of the table, which are kind of an earlier stage of production. But hopefully the rules will coalesce into something that I might be able to get onto the table at some point and start to play and mess around with. So anyway, I suppose it's worth just showing you one of these stands. I mean, I think one of the things that's also very interesting to kind of share is that these miniatures are very much 2mm scale, and I don't necessarily know if the camera is doing these justice, but I don't have a fancy printer by any stretch of the imagination, but the quality of the models at this scale is absolutely fantastic. I was looking at some of the 2 and 3mm ranges that were available as an alternative, but when I did actually start to see what was coming off the printer, I didn't really think that there would necessarily be anything in the metal that would give me better quality models than I'm able to produce for myself. So anyway, I will keep you updated as this project develops, and hopefully the rules start to take shape, and share that with you through the channel. So if you like the content of today, please check out the other videos that are available on the channel, and remember to like and subscribe. Thank you very much indeed. Take care everyone. Bye bye.